Disappearance of Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart, a pioneering aviator and the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean, set out on a daring journey to circumnavigate the globe in 1937. Along with her navigator, Fred Noonan, she departed from New Guinea in her Lockheed Electra aircraft, heading towards Howland Island in the Pacific Ocean. However, something went terribly wrong as they neared their destination. Despite maintaining radio contact with the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca, stationed near Howland Island, Earhart's communications grew increasingly desperate. She reported being low on fuel and unable to find the island. Her last message, indicating she was running north and south, was followed by silence. A massive search by the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard found no trace of Earhart, Noonan, or their plane. Since then, numerous theories have emerged about what happened to them. Some believe they crashed into the ocean and sank, while others speculate they landed on a remote island, possibly Gardner Island, where some artifacts linked to Earhart were later found. Other theories are more dramatic, suggesting capture by Japanese forces or even survival under a new identity. Despite many investigations, the fate of Amelia Earhart remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries, captivating the world's imagination for decades. Malaysian Airlines Flight MH370. On March 8, 2014, Malaysian Airlines Flight MH370 vanished while flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, carrying 239 people. The Boeing 777 disappeared from radar over the South China Sea less than an hour after takeoff, leading to a frantic search by multiple countries. Initial assumptions pointed to a sudden catastrophic failure, but later data suggested a far more complex scenario. Military radar and satellite data revealed that MH370 had turned sharply off course, flying back over Malaysia and then south over the Indian Ocean. It continued for several hours before disappearing from all radar screens. Despite extensive search efforts in the Indian Ocean, the main wreckage has never been found, and only a few pieces of debris have washed ashore, offering limited clues. Various theories have been proposed to explain the disappearance. Some suggest a hijacking or deliberate act by someone on board, possibly one of the pilots. Others consider mechanical failure or a fire that incapacitated the crew. Without the black boxes, which have never been recovered, the full story remains unknown. The disappearance of MH370 is one of the most baffling aviation mysteries in recent history, leaving families and the world with unanswered questions and a haunting sense of loss. Air France Flight 447. Air France Flight 447 was flying from Rio de Janeiro to Paris on June 1, 2009, when it suddenly disappeared over the Atlantic Ocean. The Airbus A330-200 was carrying 228 passengers and crew members when it encountered severe weather. Initially, there was widespread confusion about what had happened to the flight, with no distress signal received and no immediate evidence of a crash. After an extensive search lasting nearly 2 years, the wreckage was finally discovered on the ocean floor. The investigation revealed that the plane's pitot tubes, which measure airspeed, had iced over, causing the autopilot to disconnect. The pilots, disoriented by the stall warnings and incorrect airspeed readings, struggled to regain control, ultimately leading to a catastrophic stall from which the aircraft could not recover. The crash highlighted the critical importance of proper pilot training and understanding of automated flight systems. TWA Flight 800. Trans World Airlines Flight 800, bound for Paris, exploded shortly after takeoff from JFK Airport in New York on July 17, 1996. The explosion killed all 230 passengers and crew on board, and the aircraft plunged into the Atlantic Ocean. Initial speculation suggested a possible terrorist attack, especially given the timing and proximity to U.S. Independence Day celebrations. After a lengthy investigation, the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, determined that the explosion was caused by a spark from a frayed wire that ignited the center fuel tank vapors. Despite the official explanation, the sudden and dramatic nature of the explosion led to numerous conspiracy theories, including a missile strike or sabotage. The crash of TWA Flight 800 remains one of the most controversial aviation disasters, deeply affecting safety protocols and aircraft maintenance standards. Pan Am Flight 103, Lockerbie. On December 21, 1988, Pan Am Flight 103 exploded over Lockerbie, Scotland, killing all 259 passengers and crew on board, as well as 11 people on the ground. The Boeing 747, flying from London to New York, was brought down by a bomb hidden in a suitcase in the cargo hold. The attack was traced back to Libyan agents, and after a lengthy investigation, 2 suspects were tried, with 1 convicted for the bombing. The Lockerbie bombing remains one of the deadliest terrorist attacks involving an aircraft. It had far-reaching consequences, leading to changes in international security protocols and strained relations between Libya and the Western world. The event also left a lasting impact on the small Scottish town of Lockerbie, where the tragedy unfolded. Japan Airlines Flight 123. Japan Airlines Flight 123 was a domestic flight from Tokyo to Osaka that ended in disaster on August 12, 1985. The Boeing 747 suffered a catastrophic failure when a faulty repair to the rear pressure bulkhead caused it to rupture mid-flight. This led to an explosive decompression that destroyed the aircraft's vertical stabilizer and severed all hydraulic lines, rendering the plane uncontrollable. Despite the crew's heroic efforts to maintain control, the plane eventually crashed into a mountain, killing 520 of the 524 people on board. It remains the deadliest single aircraft accident in aviation history. The crash led to significant changes in aircraft maintenance and safety procedures, emphasizing the importance of rigorous repair and inspection processes. Eastern Airlines Flight 401. On December 29, 1972, Eastern Airlines Flight 401 crashed into the Florida Everglades while approaching Miami International Airport, killing 101 of the 176 people on board. The crash occurred because the flight crew became distracted by a malfunctioning landing gear indicator light. In their efforts to fix the issue, they failed to notice that the autopilot had been inadvertently disconnected, causing the aircraft to gradually descend until it struck the ground. The crash of Flight 401 led to changes in cockpit resource management and crew training, highlighting the importance of maintaining situational awareness and prioritizing flying the aircraft over troubleshooting minor issues. The story of Flight 401 also gained notoriety for reports of ghost sightings by other Eastern Airlines crew members, claiming to have seen the spirits of the deceased crew in other aircraft. Helios Airways Flight 522. Helios Airways Flight 522, a flight from Cyprus to Greece, crashed on August 14, 2005, after losing cabin pressure, killing all 121 people on board. The aircraft continued to fly on autopilot for several hours, eventually running out of fuel and crashing into a hillside near Athens. Investigators found that the crew had failed to properly recognize and address a gradual loss of cabin pressure, leading to hypoxia and the incapacitation of everyone on board. The tragedy of Flight 522 underscored the vital importance of crew training on recognizing and responding to pressurization issues, and it led to significant changes in airline safety protocols to prevent similar accidents. Atom Air Flight 574. Atom Air Flight 574 disappeared on January 1, 2007, while flying a domestic route in Indonesia with 102 passengers and crew on board. The wreckage was later discovered in the ocean, with no survivors. The investigation revealed that the pilots became distracted by a malfunctioning navigation system and failed to maintain control of the aircraft, leading to a high-speed descent and eventual crash. The loss of Flight 574 highlighted serious deficiencies in airline training and safety practices in Indonesia at the time, prompting regulatory reforms and improvements in aviation oversight. The crash also served as a grim reminder of the importance of prioritizing flying the aircraft, especially when troubleshooting technical issues. Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 2501. On June 23, 1950, Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 2501 disappeared over Lake Michigan while en route from New York to Seattle, with 58 people on board. Despite extensive search efforts, no significant wreckage or bodies were ever recovered, making it one of the earliest and most enduring aviation mysteries in the United States. The cause of the disappearance remains unknown, but theories include severe weather, structural failure, or even a mid-air collision with a military aircraft. The disappearance of Flight 2501 remains unsolved to this day, leaving families and aviation experts alike without answers. Trans World Airlines Flight 514. Trans World Airlines Flight 514 crashed into Mount Weather, Virginia, on December 1, 1974, killing all 92 people on board. The Boeing 727 was on approach to Washington Dulles International Airport when it was cleared to descend to 7,000 feet. Due to a miscommunication between the flight crew and air traffic control, the crew mistakenly believed they were at a safe altitude. The aircraft struck the mountain at 1,670 feet, resulting in a devastating crash. The accident led to major changes in air traffic control procedures and the mandatory installation of ground proximity warning systems in commercial aircraft to prevent future terrain collisions. Tenerife Airport Disaster. The Tenerife Airport disaster occurred on March 27, 1977, when two Boeing 747 jumbo jets collided on the runway at Los Rodeos Airport in the Canary Islands, resulting in 583 fatalities. The disaster remains the deadliest aviation accident in history. A dense fog, combined with miscommunication between the flight crews and air traffic control, led the KLM aircraft to begin its takeoff roll while the Pan Am aircraft was still taxiing on the runway. The collision and subsequent fires claimed almost all lives on board. The disaster led to sweeping changes in international aviation regulations, particularly regarding communication protocols and cockpit procedures to prevent similar tragedies. KAL-007 Incident. Korean Airlines Flight 007 was shot down by a Soviet fighter jet on September 1, 1983, after the aircraft strayed into Soviet airspace during a flight from New York to Seoul, killing all 269 people on board. The incident dramatically escalated Cold War tensions and resulted in a significant diplomatic fallout between the United States and the Soviet Union. Initially, the Soviet Union denied involvement but later admitted to shooting down the aircraft, claiming it was on a spy mission. The incident led to increased scrutiny of civilian air routes over conflict zones and played a role in the eventual decision to make GPS technology available for civilian use, improving global navigation safety. Egyptair Flight 990. On October 31, 1999, Egyptair Flight 990 crashed into the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Massachusetts, killing all 217 people on board. The aircraft suddenly descended from cruising altitude, leading to speculation about what caused the crash. The NTSB concluded that the crash was caused by the deliberate actions of the co-pilot, who they believed deliberately manipulated the controls to bring the plane down. However, the Egyptian government disputed this conclusion, suggesting a possible mechanical failure. The crash remains controversial, with debates continuing about the exact cause of the tragedy. FlyDubai Flight 981. FlyDubai Flight 981 crashed on March 19, 2016, while attempting to land at Rostov-on-Don Airport in Russia in severe weather conditions. All 62 people on board were killed. The investigation revealed that the pilots had made a series of errors while trying to land in challenging conditions, which ultimately led to the crash. The incident underscored the need for better training and protocols for pilots landing in adverse weather conditions. It also highlighted the importance of decision-making and recognizing when to abort a landing to ensure safety. Germanwings Flight 9525. Germanwings Flight 9525, a flight from Barcelona to Dusseldorf, was deliberately crashed into the French Alps on March 24, 2015, by the co-pilot, Andreas Lubitz, killing all 150 people on board. Lubitz locked the captain out of the cockpit and set the aircraft on a deliberate descent into the mountains. The crash led to significant changes in airline security and mental health screening for pilots. New regulations were introduced, requiring 2 crew members to be in the cockpit at all times to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. Silk Air Flight 185. Silk Air Flight 185, en route from Jakarta to Singapore, crashed into the Musi River in Indonesia on December 19, 1997, killing all 104 people on board. The aircraft suddenly entered a steep dive and crashed, leading to speculation about the cause. The NTSB suggested that the crash was likely caused by the deliberate actions of the captain, while Indonesian authorities did not rule out mechanical failure. The crash remains a mystery, with no definitive cause established, but it raised awareness about the need for comprehensive investigations and transparency in aviation incidents. Aer Lingus Flight 712. Aer Lingus Flight 712 crashed into the Irish Sea on March 24, 1968, killing all 61 people on board. The aircraft was flying from Cork to London when it disappeared from radar. Despite extensive search efforts, the wreckage was not found until decades later, and the exact cause of the crash remains unknown. Theories about the crash include mechanical failure, bird strikes, and even a missile strike, but no conclusive evidence has ever been found. The loss of Flight 712 remains an enduring mystery in aviation history. ValueJet Flight 592. ValueJet Flight 592 crashed into the Florida Everglades on May 11, 1996, killing all 110 people on board. The investigation revealed that improperly stored oxygen generators in the cargo hold had ignited, causing a fire that disabled the aircraft's control systems. The crash led to significant changes in airline safety regulations, particularly regarding the transport of hazardous materials. It also highlighted the importance of proper cargo handling and safety measures to prevent similar disasters. Indian Airlines Flight 814. On December 24, 1999, Indian Airlines Flight 814 was hijacked en route from Kathmandu to New Delhi with 176 passengers and crew on board. The hijackers forced the aircraft to land in several countries before settling in Kandahar, Afghanistan. After a week-long standoff, the Indian government agreed to release 3 militants in exchange for the hostages. The hijacking highlighted the challenges of dealing with international terrorism and led to increased security measures at airports worldwide, emphasizing the need for global cooperation in aviation security.